you so much for joining me this week on the Eat Me podcast. This is Alicia, and I am so excited. We are still in the month of March, and as you know, March is MS Awareness Month, and I have been blessed to be, in the presence of so many MS warriors, and today is nothing different. I have the honor of having Elena D. Coley here on the podcast. We had a brief, conversation before we got started, and I was letting her know this is a safe space. We're going to have a good time, and so I'm just so happy she's here. One, to share her story, then also talk about her business, as well as talking about her. She's going to be participating in the MS March as well, and so I'm just really excited to just have this conversation with her. Once again, Elena, thank you so much for being here on the Eat Me podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm honored to be here and be able to share a little bit about myself in hopes that it will help someone else or motivate someone else.
I'm pretty sure it will. So thank you so much again. But when I normally start this conversation, especially when it comes to MS, a lot of people want to know, because everyone's story is different as it relates to, them finding out they have this diagnosis. So for you, what were some of the symptoms that you had prior to you, getting the diagnosis? And also with that, what did that look like in terms of you, receiving that diagnosis, in terms of the time frame, all the, like testing, all that? What did that look like for you?
Well, I'll say for me in 2020, during the height of COVID, I experienced a lot of migraines. I assumed it was from the stress of COVID. I had a lot of responsibility with my then employer. I was named a COVID compliance officer. We know that titles were being made up, and we had to kind of just figure it out. So I assumed it was the stress of that. I had a new grandson at the time. So I just chalked it up to stress. I had to put my dog to sleep. I mean, so many things going on at once.
Yeah.
So that started around, I want to say March. I started getting the migraines at the end of March, but it wasn't a normal migraine. They just kept coming and they kept getting worse. And I kind of dealt with the migraines until about September, when my mom insisted that I go be checked out. She said, it shouldn't be this much stress. So I say around November, I went for an MRI at the end of November, and I was shocked to read my results, and my doctor called me back saying that it's suspected that I have multiple sclerosis. And I was like, that's probably wrong, So then I knew I needed further testing. I needed to get a spinal pressure test and a spinal tap to confirm it. I really didn't know who to go to, but I had previously had a subdermal hematoma, and I had a brain surgeon that I actually trusted. No, I did not have brain surgery, thank God, but I trusted him. His first response was, you probably don't have MS because you're Black. And that's not the only time I've heard that through the process. So we went through it the end of December, I believe we went through it, came back, and it was confirmed that I did in fact have MS. I went to a neurologist in January, a multiple sclerosis center, and it was confirmed I did in fact have MS. I was kind of prayerful, maybe Black people don't get MS, But I knew better because I looked into it myself, and while the percentages may fluctuate, Black people, we do in fact get MS. And I also believe that we're also underdiagnosed, because as I went back in my medical history, I noticed that there were signs there all the while that I was being treated for, but not one doctor or therapist could kind of put that together to make the diagnosis. So I have lesions within my brain, my thoracic spine, and my cervical spine. I have been treated for cervical spine pain, thoracic spine pain. I've been treated for all of these things through chiropractors. I did cupping, acupuncture, everything else. I was running at the time. I was told it was because of running. I had issues with my legs. But finally, it came together. And once my neurologist told me, you've had MS for some time, I was able
Wow.
to kind of put that together, put those pieces together that, wow, I've been dealing with this, but no one could pinpoint it.
Right.
Not even my primary. And that's no shade on any doctors, because
Right.
what it is that if you are a podiatrist, you look for issues dealing with podiatry. If
Right.
you're a primary care physician, you're looking at those things. If you're a
Right.
neurologist, then you're looking at those things. So everyone looks to explain things based on their specialty. And if you don't specialize in neurology or multiple sclerosis, it can easily be missed.
Right. And thank you so much for pointing out. There were so many key points in what you just said because when same thing in terms of like the diagnosis when I was told I had MS, I instantly thought even though I knew black people that had MS, I had one family member, but she was an in-law who was diagnosed. I had seen, Richard Pryor and Montel Williams, but it's still that disconnect was still there because these are just I was just thinking these are one-offs, right? But then when I got the diagnosis, I was like, okay, am I like the fourth person
And
with
in
you?
the world, yes.
This is literally what I was thinking. I was like, okay, it's me, Montel Williams, Richard Pryor, and my family member. Great, like so.
Yeah.
And like you said, that lack of understanding that one, but I think it also too, the underdiagnosing is centered around the lack of research that is put out for the Black and Brown community as it relates to multiple sclerosis. And so I think that's where a lot of this has to be, brought to the forefront. I'm thankful, which I'm probably sure, I think you're probably in the same position. I'm thankful to find places and spaces like, because actually, guys, if you're listening, or hopefully you're listening, we are also a part of a Facebook group that is catered to Black people that have multiple sclerosis. And so when I joined that group, and you can even share like, your thoughts and feelings about this as well, but I felt like, oh my gosh, there's so many other people that are Black that have this disease, and it's like not like oh yay, but it's like okay, I found people who also understand because many of the signs and symptoms that we have appear invisible, and so like when you're trying to explain certain things to people that don't have MS, it's like okay, like I don't see anything quote unquote wrong with me,
Right.
but when you
Right.
when you find that community, it's like you get me, like you get me,
Yes.
like
Definitely. Definitely. So I'll say I came to the Black MS experience, which is administered by the National MS Society. I came upon it because I found some information online about the Black MS Summit that they were having online.
Right.
That was about two years ago now.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was on that summit for the first time, I just kind of let go. I was actually crying. It was virtual, but I was
Yeah.
crying because I finally heard individuals expressing some of those same things, and I felt that I was not alone. Initially,
Right.
I felt alone for some years because when I first disclosed my diagnosis to my employer at the time, there was no how can we accommodate you. It was almost
Right.
expressed that I was going to be almost like the weakest link all of a sudden.
Wow.
Um,
Yeah.
and yet that hurt. So from that experience, I decided, I'm not going to tell anyone. I'm going to keep it to myself. I don't want anyone looking
Right.
at me that I'm now weaker. I have a lesser capacity to serve in any role. So I kind of sheltered
Right.
myself from that. And once I became part of the Black MS experience, I felt like I was able to relax. I
Yeah.
finally shared with the world, the social world rather, that hey, I have MS, and
Right.
it was a big relief, and that allowed me to be who I am. I mean, prior to this, I always considered myself a change advocate.
Mm.
I did a lot of advocacy work. That's pretty much been my life, but now I'm doing it in a different way. I'm actually a moderator for the Black MS experience, and I've
That's
kind of just
awesome.
kind of dug my, feet into the ground, and I've been, doing advocacy work for the National MS Society. I'm a I am also, in addition to the moderator role, I'm a National MS Society ambassador. I'm a state and district activist leader and a Walk MS team captain. So
I
I'm
love it.
glad to be doing that work. I also recently signed up with AARP. Yes, I'm over 50. I'm there. Happy to be there though.
Right.
um, and I'm going to be doing some advocacy work with them as well because we know that the healthcare and the work done in the healthcare space and with the current administration and things that are being passed and taken away, everything kind of meshes together. So you got the National
Yeah.
MS Society, but then you have other organizations that are working towards resolving healthcare. I'll just call it inadequacies right now.
Right.
There's inadequate funding, there's inadequate resources, and they're being taken away regularly.
Right.
So these advocate groups are very important, and I'm looking forward to serving with them for as long as I can.
I love that. And you know, the fact that you've kind of like engulfed yourself in this world is beautiful because it does allow you to like see that okay, not only am I not alone, but I am empowered. You know, like it's
Yes.
empowering to kind of put yourself in these spaces, right?
Yes, I would say so. And I had to take my power back. I mean, for a
Yes.
while, I started to believe, oh, maybe I can't speak publicly anymore because I'm going to
Mm,
forget a word in the middle of speaking, or I'm going to forget what I was saying. And last year, I challenged myself. I was actually a speaker at a National MS Society fundraiser, and I challenged myself. I did it a little differently where this time instead of just speaking off the cuff, I had my notes on my, tablet and things like that.
right.
But we can do anything we were doing before. I think the first battle though is within our minds. And that's because
Yes.
of how society views us.
Mm-hmm.
Society looks at us and says there's nothing wrong with us. And we're battling because we're like, there is something wrong. I am dealing with something. When you
Right.
go through the airport, and I'm saying that, hey, I need to board early. And you're
Yeah.
being looked at like, up and down, like, well, nothing's wrong with you because we know
Right.
MS is now, very much referred to as the invisible disease.
Right.
Um, so it comes with challenges in that way as well, because individuals will often look at you as if nothing's wrong with you. I can be
Yep.
dancing, one night and then I'm down the next 3 to 4.
Right.
And, you have individuals like, looking like, hey, you were just dancing over here 4 nights ago, dropping it like it's hot.
Yes.
And here you go, 3, 4 days later, you just can't move, and it's not all age related,
Right.
it it has to do with the MS recovery time. And on average, it does take
Right.
us about 3 to 4 days to recover from, a lot of activity, whether that's physical exhaustion or mental exhaustion.
Right. Right. And thank you so much for pointing that out because and that just brought me back to a memory. We actually went to an event with my wife for her job, and this is the annual like event they have. And one year I was able to be, like you said, out there doing my thing. And I remember the year after that, I just had to sit. I was like, my legs are not. I just felt so unstable. And a few of her coworkers were like, "Oh my gosh, but last year you were out in the dance floor, you were jamming." And I was like, "No," I was like, "I'm good this year. I will, celebrate from afar." But it confuses people, like you said, because it's like how is it like like last year you were fine, now you're like completely like this doesn't make sense. And so
Right.
I completely hear you on that, completely. And you also mentioned about you said you're an ambassador for the MS Walk, correct?
For the MS Walk, I'm actually a team captain.
Team captain, okay.
Yes.
So no, where are you located again?
So I'm in New Jersey. I'll be at the Walk
Oh,
MS in West Orange. That's on April 26th, 2026. I'll
nice.
be there. I've been fundraising, so anyone who can donate, I appreciate it. I always tell anyone that every dollar helps. I
Yes.
appreciate when someone literally goes on and donates $1 because those
Right.
$1 add to more. And there were some significant cuts to MS research
Right.
that the National MS Society, they're trying to close those gaps. And not only that,
Mhm.
they also provide resources to individuals as needed, whether it comes to just being able to speak with someone through the MS
Right.
Navigator program, or you need medical equipment and things like that. Those are resources that we lose when funding is cut. So the Walk
Right.
MS, that allows for some of those needs to be met for my fellow MS warriors. So I'm all
Yeah.
for it.
Yes, I love that. And I'm actually in New York City, so I'll be in the walk. We talked about this, y'all, before I hit record. Thank God, Elena actually said something about it before we hit record. I was like, oh my gosh, thank you for the reminder because I have not signed myself up. I have got to get on it. So I told her as soon as we finish this recording, I've got to get all my stuff in gear here. I was like, I'm falling so behind. So thank you for that reminder.
Yeah. And I mean, even the falling behind, right? I
Yeah.
often do that, and I've learned
Mm-hmm.
we have to extend ourselves some grace,
Yes.
especially if we want others to extend us grace. So falling behind, I know that I have something to do. I can know I have something to do for the entire week, but
Yeah.
there's something that comes over you with MS that,
Mm-hmm.
we deal with depression. We deal
Yes.
sometimes, I labeled myself lazy for a long time. And I
Mm-hmm.
had to learn through therapy and through speaking with other MS warriors that it's not being lazy, it's part of the disease. You can't
Yeah.
see these things. And if you're used to being a highly motivated individual who wants to get out here and do everything in the world, which is who I was, you have to learn to taper that so you can
Right.
be your best in doing specific things that you want to do, whether that's going to be volunteering, whether that's going to be going out for the night, going away
Right.
even.
Yeah.
I have to look at that a lot differently because I have the heat sensitivity. So going to
Mm-hmm.
Florida sometimes is a challenge.
Yeah.
Individuals might wonder, why do I wear long sleeves a lot? Well, it's because I have to have cooling gear underneath
Mm-hmm.
um, with whatever I do. I have an SPF long sleeve bathing suit because I have to
Yeah.
stay cool, so I don't pass
Right.
out.
Right. Right. And for maybe those who don't know a lot about MS, many of us have that heat sensitivity that causes us to have, exacerbation of whatever our symptoms are, to heighten those symptoms. And
Right.
for me, what happens to me is I'll have double vision. When I am like that heat, it just the first time it happened to me, I freaked out because I kept trying to because I wear glasses anywhere, right? Right? And I'm like blinking, 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 and I was just like, "What is?" I mean, it just overwhelmed me, and I was like, and then it hit me. It's like, "Oh, I'm too hot. Like I'm in the sun. Hello, Alicia." And like once I cooled myself down and kind of like got myself together, my vision like slowly, not like instantly, but it was like I think
Right.
like a day or so, things started kind of like panning out. But for you, in terms of like heat sensitivity, what are some of the symptoms that like occur with you?
Oh God, yeah. So you just brought up a memory actually that I
Uh
had
huh.
forgotten about.
Mhm.
I remember specifically in maybe July 2018, I
Yeah.
contacted my primary doctor and I said, look, I take a nice warm bath every
Mm.
night. And I said, all of a sudden, I'm feeling lightheaded. I'm feeling dizzy. My vision is blurry. I don't know what's going on. My face becomes
Right.
very flush. I've not necessarily changed the manner or the temperatures in which I was bathing in.
Right.
So when I went to my primary, and again, they're not neurologists.
Right.
So I was just told that you need to cool the water down. You're probably just having it too hot and you're lowering your pressure.
Right.
Yes, your pressure does lower.
Right.
Um, However, we didn't know at the time that it was related to MS. And at my
Mm.
very first appointment with my neurologist at the Comprehensive Cancer Center, my neurologist said, just describe some things that you feel are weird that you maybe experienced over the past several years. And that was one of the
Right.
things that I mentioned. And he said, oh, that's Utah's phenomenon. That's the hot
Yeah.
bath test. Um, for individuals who don't know, back before technology, before we can truly assess multiple sclerosis, they did what was called a hot bath test. They
Yeah.
put individuals in hot baths to see if they reacted. If you reacted, then you had multiple sclerosis.
Yeah.
While that can be a good indicator, not everyone does have
Right.
heat sensitivity. So it
Right.
wasn't the best indicator, but they used it to, at that time, to kind of
Right.
at least at least identify individuals who reacted to that. But we know
Right.
that, MS is on a very large scale spectrum. Everyone
Right.
is different. Even our experiences and how MS manifests itself can be very different from one week to the next, from one day to another. So it's just
Right.
very different for everyone.
Right. And that's so true. And for the longest, I didn't have heat sensitivity issues. And once I went into perimenopause, because I'm 47, things started shifting. I used to religiously go to hot yoga. Like I loved hot yoga, and it never bothered me. Now, when I would take when I that and that actually that situation I was telling you about, that also was that like a year ago, that was in the sun and I had the double vision. All
Mm.
these things started happening. Like you said, from one moment to the next, things can change. Like I said, I never had heat sensitivity issues. And within the past year or two, I would say 2 years, it's been an issue. And it broke my heart that I had to stop, going to hot yoga, because that was like one of my favorite things to do. Because as you know, and maybe folks don't know, with MS, our moving our bodies is so important as well. And so that was one of my, forms of exercise. And that just really took me down like a really crazy road, because I was like, what, something I think I'm helping myself with is actually hindering me. It's like, I wish now I'm like, why did I do that? But it's like, I just didn't know.
Right. And it hurts when you can't do the things you love anymore. I was
Right.
also running. I really don't do that anymore. Treadmill walk,
Yeah.
yes, but as far as running, I had to give that up. I have to be very intentional with how I plan vacations,
Yeah.
all of those things. I mean, everything just comes into play. I go out for an
Right.
afternoon and then you come home and you're down for the night, and now you've put off your work that you
Yeah.
needed to do, and then in your head you're feeling lazy, and you kind of regroup yourself mentally, so that
Mm-hmm.
you grant yourself some grace.
Right. Right. That's one thing I will say with this actual disease. I've had to really reshape my mindset as it relates to just being so hard on myself, because that's how I was prior. If I didn't get stuff done, Alicia, why didn't you get that done? Like, you're being ridiculous, and it's like that sense of grace. I've never been a person to do that for myself, and like you said, this has been an eye opener for me, that I can, give myself grace, and it's okay for me to take breaks
Hmm.
and to, prioritize rest as being productive. Because I thought moving and doing something, that was production, but it's like, my body requires rest. That's productivity for me.
Right, right. And things that others might take for granted that get done. It's like we want gold stickers all over the refrigerator because we were able to do it,
Right.
because we have to reward ourselves too.
Yeah.
Maybe other individuals don't understand why we need to reward ourselves, but we really do, and we
Yeah.
always need to extend ourselves grace. I still struggle with that,
Yeah.
because I'm just used to going every day, all day, and I
Mm-hmm.
can't I can't do it anymore. And I
Right.
have to be real with myself because I want to be around, so I have to be real with myself.
Exactly, exactly. We talked to y'all before, like I said, I told y'all, we talked before I hit record, and Elena was telling me beyond, all of her amazing efforts in, the MS world, she also is a consultant. And listen, I told you, Elena, this was going to happen. My brain, like, it just flipped. So you consult with, yeah, take it away. I knew it. I knew this was
Okay.
going to happen. I knew it.
Hey, look, and I understand. um, so I am actually an entrepreneur. I have a small business. I have a virtual tax operation business, and I also
Mhm.
offer business consulting. So that has pretty much been what I've been doing as I slowly kind of integrate other activities into my life. I do
Uh-huh.
enjoy advocacy work.
Mhm.
Again, it had been my life for 25 plus years, what I did for a living and what I did, for my spare time and my enjoyment. So
Right.
I'm getting back to that. But in terms of, being an earner right now, it's the
Yeah.
virtual business. And I'm very fortunate that I had the foresight to make this business virtual many, many years
Mhm.
ago prior to COVID, because that really helped me out.
Right. Yeah, and that's what I was actually, and you basically, answered the question that I was going to ask. I was like, do you feel like basically this actual work is something that allows you to still, kind of like quote unquote be in the game in terms of like employment and at the same time care for yourself with your diagnosis of MS?
I would say it helps me to be in a game with employment. I am actively seeking employment, but at this time, I know I have to have the right employer.
Right.
Having the
Right.
right employer matters because it
Yeah.
will really stress you. And when you
Yeah.
don't feel supported, that adds to additional stress. And you start to,
Right.
move further away on this island alone when you don't feel supported. So I am
Right.
just looking for the right employment fit before I dedicate myself to another
Yeah.
employer.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. And you're actually speaking to me right now about my whole situation. So we won't go into details on that, but but
We
it's
all
so
have
true,
stories.
right? I mean, seriously. And I think when it comes to that, like you said prior, it's like and maybe I don't know if you said this before we hit record or not, but we were talking about just working in general, and how you don't want to like admit that you have like this thing going on, and at the same time, not saying something about it can actually be I don't want to say to your detriment, but in a way so, because it's like you never told anybody. You don't want to kind of like put yourself out there like, oh, I have this disability or whatever. But I feel like, at least for me, I feel like with me sharing that, it has also given me the ability to say, you know what, you guys know what's going on with me, and your support or not your support, I have to find the right place for me that actually works. And I think that's empowering within itself, even if the employer doesn't support where you are in your situation in terms of your MS journey.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree. I understand though that some of us can't make that choice.
Right,
We have to kind of stay put. I had to stay put with that employer until I was
right.
able to retire and ensure my benefits were in place for retirement.
That part. Okay.
Because the benefits alone, we know how much
Right,
the treatments cost.
right,
So, I had put in my time. I was only some months away from having those benefits once I retire. So, a
right,
lot of individuals they don't get the luxury of that, and I feel I'm blessed in that way that I put in my
right.
time when I was younger and I was able to kind of get out with my medical. But we know many individuals, they don't take care of themselves because of medical. And right now, where we are in this country with medical benefits and providing for those who need them, we know that we're not in a very good place. So
Right.
organizations who advocate for that, and I'm talking, nonpartisan organizations, because we do need people on both sides of the fence to
Exactly.
support it for it to be successful.
Right. Yeah, no, that is so true. Thank you for pointing that out. And, you know, I think also too, when it comes to just us, being in a position to, advocate for those, like you said, not everyone's in a position to, stop working, or whatever that situation is. With you being so involved in the MS world, and this is just me asking because I'm not really, this is part I'm not that savvy on. Are there resources for folks that are in a position that don't have, either the financial support in terms of insurance and all things like that, that are out there to help, particularly with MS, folks that are diagnosed with MS? Do you have any information about that or no?
Yeah, there are. I can't name them offhand. I know
No
that there
worries.
are some fellow moderators on in the Black MS Facebook community who
Okay.
have dropped some resources. I've
Uh
dropped a
huh.
few myself too. I believe
Okay.
MS Focus is one of them, but there are
Okay.
organizations out there that, despite the loss of funding, they are still assisting individuals to the extent that they can. And also
Okay.
the MS Navigators are very good with the National MS Society in helping you
Okay.
identify the resources that you need.
Okay, perfect. You know what I'll do? I'll drop the MS Society's link in this actual episode, just so if people are interested, they can kind of like go down that quote unquote rabbit hole and see if there's resources that would be beneficial to them, or even folks that they, are, know that have MS. So thank you so much for providing that information as well.
Of
Thank
course.
you. So as you move through this journey with MS, what has been something that you like are grateful for since having this diagnosis? Because I think some people, like, we harp on the, oh my gosh, I was diagnosed with MS, blah blah blah. But and the reason why I always ask people this, because I feel like one of the blessings for me is I am so much more aware of my body, and I really listen to my body in ways that I didn't do any of that before. Like, I was like, I'm just living. Like, I never really looked at my body as something that I really needed to hone in on. So for me, I'm grateful for that. With you, what would you say something since having this diagnosis that you're grateful for now that you've been diagnosed?
Yeah, I try to live a life of gratitude
Yeah.
because what I see is oh so horrible. There's
Yep.
someone out there that wishes they could be in my position. I'm
Mhm.
grateful that I still have most of my cognition, even though I do suffer from brain fog. I'm grateful that I have my mobility for the most part. There are times when I
Yes.
am down. But I'm grateful for those things because I know that it could be worse and it may get worse. But at this
Right.
time, I'm grateful for that. And should this progress for me, I'm grateful for every day. I have a
Yeah.
grandson, I have a daughter, a
Aw.
mom. I have my significant other. He's my care partner, my support person, and I want to be around. So I want to live a life of gratitude, and I found that also helps my mindset rather than focusing on
Yeah.
the things that I can't do. Now, do I still get down sometimes? Of course
Right.
I do. We all do, whether you have MS or not. We get down
Yeah.
sometimes about where we think we should be in life, what we should be doing, what we should have did yesterday, what we should do today.
Yeah.
And I would just say to individuals, grace. I still
Yes.
struggle at extending grace to myself, but I actively work on that. I would say, think about the things you were able to do that someone else maybe cannot do.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, Elena, thank you so much. That was beautiful. And
Thank
thank you so
you.
much for just taking the time to just share your story. This was beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. I feel honored to be here. And I truly hope that, this podcast and your other podcasts serve to help and empower individuals. I'll say on May 6th is the Black
Uh-huh.
MS Experience Summit. So there'll
Okay.
be information on our Facebook group so that individuals can
Okay.
join. It used to be an all-day event. They've cut it down now to 4 times a year
Okay.
for a few hours because I think that was more manageable for individuals.
Okay.
But I'm hoping to see, as many people on there as possible that will share it and, take part in it. It was actually a significant point in my diagnosis when I joined the
Mm.
Black MS Summit. I mean, I shed a lot of tears, and
Yeah.
they weren't tears because I was sad. They were tears of joy because I felt understood. I felt like I found my tribe, you know.
I love
So
that.
it was very empowering, and I think it could be empowering to other individuals as well.
Awesome. And if there's a link, let me know and I'll put it in the show notes as well.
I
Uh,
definitely will. I
yeah, so I'll
definitely
put that in the
will.
show notes too for folks because I want to give people as many resources as possible. Because, like we said at the beginning of this episode, being a black person with MS, especially when you first get that diagnosis, it's just like, okay, is it just me? Like, you know what I'm saying? But to know that there's a community out there that has the support and resources and all the things, it's like, oh my gosh, I hit the jackpot when it comes to this. I do have people out there that are willing to support, so thank you for
Yeah.
everything you're doing.
Oh, thank you. And thank you for having this platform for individuals to just kind of put it out there and speak candidly about it, you know. And I would say that whole MS and menopause thing, that could be a whole separate podcast. I mean,
Yes.
I'm 55 and I'm just starting to experience it. I know I'm a little late, but my God, you know,
Right.
and it is a little more challenging and difficult with individuals who have MS because we can't
Yeah.
distinguish what's what and what's going on sometimes.
Right.
So I'm sure a lot of ladies would appreciate a segment on that.
Definitely. You know what? Thank you for putting that out there. I'll probably put out another feeler and see if some folks
Mhm.
want to talk about that. Even when I put this feeler out, I was overwhelmed with how the love and people just wanting to share their story. So be on the lookout for that, y'all, as well. Oh my gosh, yeah. Oh my gosh, thank you so much again, Elena. This was awesome. Thank you, thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. And all the information I said that I'll share in the show notes as it relates to Elena's business and all the MS resources will be in the show notes. So definitely take a look at that, y'all, when you get a chance. Thank y'all for listening to this week's episode of the Eat Me podcast.
Thank
I will
you.
see y'all next week. Oh, you are so welcome. This was awesome.
Thank you.
You're welcome.